If you're anything like me, you'll probably have made quite a lot of bad decisions in your life. And obviously, the impact can be very, very big. They can last for years, decades even. So what I'd like to do in this video is I'd like to share what I believe to be the single most important factor in improving your decision making. And it's really, it's not a technique exactly. It's really about understanding something about our decision making. And it does apply to the big things, relationships, jobs, houses, and the small things, what I'm going to do next in my day. So when we make a decision, we are making a decision from the available state or the current state rather that we're in. So during the course of our day, we change quite a lot. And we change from, I woke up this morning feeling a little bit down because I had a busy day yesterday. And right now, a couple of hours later, done some work, session, etc., I feel clear. So my decision-making capabilities will change depending on how I feel. There are two main states that we can think about which are impacting our decision-making. The first is whether we have our higher brain function online. That's when we feel, in nervous system terms, which is thinking about how our nervous system is actually functioning at any given moment, we are regulated. We are clear-minded. We're present. We're sort of available to what's going on. That's the one state. And obviously that is more useful than the other state, which is to be caught up in what are often referred to as saboteurs. Now, I don't love that language. I always, or very often, say how much I don't love this language. But the thing about it is it describes perfectly the state that we're in. We're kind of hijacked by these states. Now, why it matters is because, as you can imagine, if our higher brain functions are in line in the regulated state, they're not there in the same way. Well, they're not there at all in these hijacked states. So if we're hijacked and we're making a decision, then we are making a decision from a whole worldview, from a whole level of intelligence that is not going to actually be optimal. It's going to make a decision, but it's going to be making a decision based on feelings and beliefs and ideas about the world, which are just not going to be taken towards what we really care about. So there's a wonderful study by somebody called Bruce Perry, and it's called The Threatened Child, and it's about children, but it just shows wonderfully this in actual research terms. And he goes through the levels of IQ for children in different levels of fear, all through from completely calm and relaxed to alert, through to scared, through to terror. And at each level, even between relaxed and alert, there's a drop of 10 points of IQ. So by the time it gets to terror, 40 points for the child, less IQ than when they're relaxed. That's huge. And the same thing applies to us adults. That's the impact of being caught up in our saboteurs. Now, one thing which is very fascinating is that the saboteurs are actually survival energy. They are there for a reason. It's not that they're bad. They're just maybe active inappropriately. Maybe we got triggered by something. So they're active at the wrong time. They are designed to keep us alive. And so they are absolutely compelling. So when we are in a hijacked state, what is actually going to happen is that we are going to be convinced that this is true. It's compelling. That saboteur survival state is going to make us believe that the world we're in is threatening and that we have to make decisions accordingly. So what can we actually do about this? Well, the first thing is, and this is why I said at the beginning that it's to do with the understanding. If we know that there are some states that we're in which are really better than others for making decisions, we can start to get to know and perhaps not make that decision when we're in a compelled state, one of these survival states, hijacked states. So just the understanding, just the starting to have that question in one's mind actually makes it possible to start to think a little bit differently about how we are making our decisions. Am I clear? Do I have clarity? Or is it all really muddled? And am I feeling angry and frustrated and making a decision from that place? So that understanding is key. The second thing is to actually train the skill of noticing. And mindfulness techniques will do this to a great degree. It's actually more useful even if we know about these two states, so we can actually get to know how they sharpen us. I, for example, tend to go into a bit of a low energy state rather than a really frantic state. So I know that about myself, and so I have ways to help myself move out of that particular kind of hijack accordingly. So we have the understanding that it's there, we develop some awareness around it, and then we can actually develop specific ways of, once we get to know these states a bit better, of moving ourselves back. And one of the most useful ways is to do some form of physical practice, short physical practice, just paying attention, for example, to the way our fingers feel, or how our body is against the chair it's resting on, start to bring us back into the present moment. And that can help bring us out of this hijack. Those are the day-to-day methods that we can use. Obviously, you can work with somebody like me to help you really speed up the process and get much more clarity on how you're working with it. But those three things can really bring you into a lot more clarity about your decision making. I think there was one more thing I wanted to say, really, which is everybody has 20/20 vision in hindsight. I heard this phrase the other day, and it's so, so true. Looking back, we all know exactly what we should have done. And there can be some judgment that comes in around our decision making. And even the word bad is not so helpful with this. And I think this is it's not so focused directly on managing our decision making. And at the same time, it's fundamental, because if we are judging ourselves as being bad for having made that bad decisions, then we are really undermining our sense of self-worth, really, which just, as you can imagine, makes us lean towards that hijack state a little bit more. So it's much more helpful to think of decisions as less than optimal, or could be better, something which allows us a bit of space there. But ultimately, our decision making is a good thing because it helps us move. And if we can learn even from the ones which are less than optimal, we can make a big difference. And particularly if we can actually notice that the saboteur state gives a different kind of decision from our states of clarity, when we have more of our creative mind online, our wisdom, if you like, then as we get to know that, we start to make better decisions, not just for the big things, but for all the little things in our life. And that can really make a big difference, not just to our life in general when we've made those big decisions, but to the quality of our day.